Welcome to the first episode of the Gingerspyce Tiefling Druid. In this series, I'm going to be playing through my favorite Druid build as a Tiefling, and it will serve as a guide to my build. I think Tiefling is one of the stronger choices for like a castery kind of Druid that I am, and although I don't think it's necessarily the best choice, I think probably arguably maybe like Deep Gnome and Dragonborn because of the bonuses to spell DCs might be a little bit better, but I think Tiefling is a pretty strong choice for a caster Druid, and then Human is a pretty good choice too, and Half Elf isn't bad either for my particular build. In any event, Tieflings are new, and I wanted to play my Druid as a Tiefling. So all along the way, I'm going to be giving you tips and advice. I'm going to be making this information very accessible to newer players. However, because I am a multi-completionist and I have a lot of gear and stuff from previous lives, some of this information might seem a little esoteric or unrelatable to some newer players. So if you're interested in seeing how this build performs as like a brand new tune, I actually do have some video series that shows that as well. I have the Northwind True First Life Druid series, and then the sequel to that series that I just finished earlier this year, Northwind 2, the Druid True Second Life series, where I show how this build performs as a first lifer and then as a second lifer in the series. So I did that series, those series on a different server where I didn't have any friends, didn't have a guild, didn't have past lives, I didn't have my wealth, gear, all that stuff. So if you want to see how it performs, and I was pleasantly surprised in both series that I was able to do some pretty cool things even on a first and second lifer version of it. And I'm talking things like, soloing the Demon Queen raid, at base normal level on Reaper 1 Skull. So that was pretty cool to do that on the second lifer and to solo it on Elite during the first life. So there's still some pretty cool things you can do. Now, if you don't know me, I'm not a power gamer. I have been playing this game for a very long time, but I don't play like power builds. And this particular build is a more balanced build. It could be called like a hybrid. And so I call this build a caster healer quasi tank because it kind of straddles the line in between those things. And it basically exists in the zone between a caster and a tank. So I'm not a true caster. I'm not going to get the DCs and the spell power that a true caster would have, and I'm not a true tank, so I'm not going to get the uber high defensiveness that a true tank would have. So I'm somewhere in the middle. And for what it is, that allows me to do what I want to do. When it comes to running quest content, that means I'm very comfortable on this, mini lifer doing, you're going to find me doing like a lot of R5s, maybe R6s, R7s. I will say that it starts to get out of my comfort zone once I bump it up to like R8 and up. Although I have taken this build into those, but its effectiveness as a tank certainly diminishes significantly once you get into high skull questing. When it comes to raid tanking, I certainly would not recommend like a new version, a first life version of this build. Try to do any raid tanking, maybe beyond about normal. On the multi-lifer here, I certainly would not, try to tank anything on this tune beyond about R1 when it comes to raid bosses. So that gives you an idea of, what I like to do with this build and what it's capable of as a multi-lifer. Now, if you're a little bit newer, what I want to do is be very real about, what I'm starting with in terms of past lives. And I want to quantify everything that I'm getting because, like I said, I'm a multi-completionist, so I want you to realize that, that's the context of this series. And I get a lot of benefits from that. And I get a lot of benefits from having all the ship buffs as well. And if you're not familiar with ship buffs, you can go on the DDO wiki, the single best source of information, all things DDO, and you can look to see what all the ship buffs do. There's lots of things there: extra spell power, extra DCs, extra defensiveness, extra everything. Which is just, that on top of past lives ends up making a significant difference in performance. So for this particular tune, I don't have every possible past life, but I actually have pretty close to that. And I'm going to go over the benefits that I get that are relevant. There are a few benefits from past lives that are irrelevant, like bonuses to search and disable, that is meaningless to this tune, so I won't mention things like that. So first off, I am a racial completionist, and that gives me +2 to all my ability scores. In addition to that, I also have +3 charisma from past lives, as well as +2 dexterity, constitution, intelligence, and wisdom, and +1 strength. I also start with +12 racial action points from past lives, as well as +57 hit points, and then because of the way that those epic past lives are tiered, I'll be getting an additional 36 hit points at level 10, another 36 at 20, and another 36 at 30. I also get +18 armor class, an additional +9 at 10th, +9 more at 20th level, and +9 more at level 30 because of the way the martial epic past lives are tiered. I also start with +36 PRR, +18 MRR, +3% dodge, +30 healing amplification, +120 spell points, +9 to spell penetration, +3 to the DCs of all my conjuration evocation spells, +9 positive spell power, +4 to elemental resistances, +9% absorption of acid, cold, electric, and fire damage, +2 to save versus traps, +6 to save versus enchantments and illusions, +2 to reflex saves, +6 to the stats of my wolf summons, charms, and hirelings, +3 to my intelligence skills, +2 spellcraft, +1 heal balance UMD, that's use magic device and intimidate, an additional +4 to the use magic device skill, +1 to attack and damage rolls, and then the past lives that I have from the benefits that I get from active past life stances include +7% chance to proc a random damage on all attacks, and that can proc once every 10 seconds, +9% crit chance for acid, cold, electric, fire, and sonic spells, +3 to all my saves, +3 to all my skills, and an auto 25% incorporeality function that lasts for 18 seconds when I drop below 50% health. And then I have a clicky that I can use 3 times per rest that gives an AoE 20% action boost to movement speed, and +3 to saves for 20 seconds, and that also dispels fear. So that is a lot of bonuses that I get from past lives. And like I said, if you're a little bit newer, I really wanted to quantify all that so you can understand that this is what I'm starting with out of the gate. And if you're rolling your eyes right now, and if you're thinking, I want to see what a first lifer can do, you should check out my Northwind series. And even a first life version of this build is capable of doing some pretty cool things. Alright, so that contextualizes this series. So in every episode, I'm going to be going over like the gear that I'm using, the spells that I've taken, feats, skills, enhancements, all that good stuff. So let's take a look. I just reincarnated, and I haven't even done a single quest yet. So let's see. We'll start with taking a look at the gear, and I'm not even seriously geared at this point because what I'll be showing you shortly is that I'm going to be racing to level 2 just by doing a single quest, and it will literally take me a couple of minutes, so I don't even bother gearing up for level 1 seriously. I don't bother with Korthos in the Age of Reaper mode. Korthos does not have a Reaper option, and in the Age of Reaper mode, my goal is to get to level 4 as fast as possible, because that's when you can start spending your Reaper points. Your Reaper points are level gated, and the first point at which your Reaper enhancement trees become available are level 4. So all I'm trying to do is get to level 4 as quickly and efficiently as possible. So for now, all I have here is, this is a nice set of goggles that really just about any build could benefit from. It has True Seeing and Persuasion that gives a +3 competency bonus to charisma-based skills. So that's like use magic device, for example, or intimidate, or diplomacy and bluff, and so on. So that's just a nice utility item to have. I also have my Necklace of Contemplation. This is one of my favorite, level 1 twink items. This comes out of the end chest of Caverns of Koromar, and it's false life 10 is the biggest reason that I have it, but it also has concentration +5, which is helpful to a caster, and attack bonus +1. As a more tanky caster, I do find myself on the front lines, and so I do swing my weapon occasionally, or I do swing it regularly, although melee DPS is not a focus of this build at all. In any event, this is actually a pretty nice item for just about any toon at level 1. Who doesn't like 10 extra hit points, right? I just have the starter leather and the starter shield, so that's nothing special. I'll be replacing that next level when I'm a little bit more serious about the quest that I'm doing. I also have the Master's Gift slotted on an empty belt. That's just because I want to get 5% extra XP out of these first couple of quests that I do. I also have a Vorpal Scimitar of Draining that I put Festival Frost on. You can do that during the Ryzia event that happens during the winter holidays. It is a Vorpal and Draining. Draining gives you temporary spell points on Vorpal hits. Vorpals are really nice in Reaper questing because it doesn't matter, like how much damage resistance mobs have or how little damage I'm doing. If I roll a 20, that mob is going to die unless it's like a champion that has, Death Ward on it or something like that. In heroic Reaper questing, Vorpals are an excellent choice, and I highly recommend it. If you're not going to do Reaper questing, then you just want to pick up a weapon that, does the best DPS. Alternatively, you could, instead of using a melee weapon, you could be using a caster stick, and that just means, some kind of scepter or something that has more caster-focused stats, like spell power and crit chance, for example. And probably my very favorite level 1 twink gear is the Quiver of Alacrity. This comes out of the Accursed Ascension raid, the Heroic Abbot raid, and when it is upgraded, it gets Striding 30%. I don't care about the ranged Alacrity because this isn't a ranged build, but Striding 30% at level 1 is pretty freaking awesome. I will mention that the iconic Tiefling, Tiefling just came out, that the past life stance that you can activate from there, if you have stacked it up 3 times, can also give you 30% striding. So if running Abbot just is not an option for you to get this, because it's a pretty technically challenging raid, and you need a pretty organized group. Even though it's a very old raid, it still requires some coordination and some raid knowledge to do that. It's not the kind of thing that could reasonably be soloed. It can be soloed, but it's pretty tricky to do that. But, you and a few buddies could do it. In any event, striding 30% is awesome to have for somebody who likes to reincarnate as often as I do. And if this, like I said, if it's not an option, iconic Tiefling past life stance, which gives plus 10% striding per stack up to 3 times, so up to 30% striding, which you could use at level 1, is a nice option for somebody that likes to reincarnate a lot, but just, can't get the Quiver of Alacrity. I also have my Elite Spider Cult Mask. This came from the Menace of the Underdark expansion. It gives me +1 profane bonus to all skills, and profane bonus to save against poison. And then I also crafted the Festival Fire Resistance 10. That's a 10 stacking fire resistance. That's basically a freebie that you can add during the Midwinter Festival that happens like in February or so. And then the Ragged Rags is just a cosmetic that I have that just because I could add the Festival Cold Resistance to it, which gives me 10 stacking cold resistance. Again, that's from the Midwinter Festival recipes. I got some XP pots in there and a button of winning because you never know when you want to win. You might need to hit that if you want to win. Actually, that's just a joke item. I got a couple Cure Light Wounds wands here. It's very important, I think, to be able to heal yourself and others, and maybe even your wolf or your summons or something like that. So right out of the gate, I want to have some Cure Wands so I can heal others. And then I'll be upgrading to Cure Moderate at level 3 and Cure Serious at level 5 and so on. And then the good old Archivist necklace that comes from the end reward of Misery's Peak. That's a couple clickies of a very small amount of spell points, but in an emergency situation, it is certainly a nice item, and I like to have all the spell point clickies in the game. So there are many of them, and I'll be going over them, as I level up and gear up. Okay, potions. This is very important, And some of these potions are just absolutely essential, and so it's really worth emphasizing. So this top row, let's see, we've got lesser restoration, and that's going to remove like ability damage and fatigue and exhaustion and stuff like that. Then we got blindness removal. When you get blinded by a mob, that's really sucky, so it's important to be able to get rid of that. Also, potions of neutralize poison to get rid of poison, remove disease, and remove curse. It is not the cleric's job to remove any of these conditions from you. That is your job. The cleric has much better things to do with their time and their spell points than trying to get rid of your curse or your disease. It's really important that you're self-sufficient for those kinds of things, and you want to have all of those potions with you at all times, right out of the gate, unless you happen to be immune to the conditions that these alleviate. For example, later on you might have blindness immunity, so maybe you don't want to carry blindness, remove blindness pots, and that's fine. But other than, if you're not immune to the conditions that these alleviate, then you need to carry these potions with you at all times. During the low B levels, potions of Cure Serious Wounds that you can get from like House K, Liquid Charm shop there in House K. Cure Serious Wounds potions are a great way to heal yourself. I also have a Eternal Flask of Displacement. You can get this nowadays from the Mysterious Remnant Trader, I believe. I don't know if it's available all the time, but this gives you displacement, 50% mischance, and it just lasts for 1 minute, I think. Let's click it and see. Yep. So, it's kind of an oh shit button. You're going into a big fight or something like that, or you're taking a lot of hits, you can hit that. And later on, I'll actually be switching to Scrolls of Displacement because this has a long cooldown, but the Scrolls I'll be able to use as often as I like. The Scrolls only last 30 seconds, though. It's just the kind of thing that you hit, like if you're going into a big fight and you want that extra layer of defense. In the Age of Reaper mode, it's really important to have multiple layers of defenses. You can't rely on any one or two things like you could, back in the day when the highest difficulty was just Elite. You could just get away with having, a few, displacement clickies and, as long as you had adequate hit points, it was typically good enough. But like I said, in the Age of Reaper mode, it's important to have multiple layers of defense for everyone. And if you're new to Reaper mode, I do have a couple of videos where I call them my Gingerspyce's Survival Guide to Reaper mode. So if you're brand new to Reaper mode and you're wondering, like, how can I be successful, I give some important tips and advice in both of those videos. I also have some Yugoloth potions. I have the Constitution potions and the Wisdom potions. That's +2 stacking Con and Wisdom. And then they also come with some additional benefits as well. So like the Constitution potion, for example, gives an additional +20 stacking hit points, especially nice in lobby questing. But I carry these with me at all times. If I feel like I need a little extra defense, I'm going to hit that. And then the leftover from when I just got done doing some Bard lives. So I had these Yugoloth Charisma potions. They're just leftovers. I wouldn't normally buy these for my Druid life, but like I said, they're just leftovers, so I'll try to just use them up to get rid of them. On some other potions that can be handy, and there are even more, but I'll just mention a few. Potions of Heroism are pretty cool. It gives you a morale bonus to attack saves and skill checks. It just lasts for 5 minutes. And then some people also really love to have potions of haste. Some people consume these like they're water, just constantly. These only last for 30 seconds, but they are pretty nice. I don't typically get them, but I wanted to mention that this is an option. Also, some folks really like to have potions of protection from evil, and this gives you a little bonus to AC and saves from attacks against by evil creatures, and will also ward you from like mental compulsions, like being commanded, for example. I don't typically get these on this particular tune, although later on I will be carrying around like level 10 wands of protection from evil to use more situationally. But if you want to have these potions, those are certainly nice to have. I have some spell point pots for when I run out of spell points, a couple of shield wands. I noticed that I have a 120% chance to use. In other words, I'm not going to fail using these. But when I did my Northwind 2 series, I think I only had, out of the gate, I think I only had like a 20 or 20% chance to use them. And if you're like on a first lifer, then, you might not have any. But even if you have a really low percent chance, it's definitely worth using these right away, because these protect you from magic missiles, and magic missiles are more devastating than ever in Reaper mode, so really important to keep shield on you. Or Night Shield, if you're a different class that could cast Night Shield, like Divines cast Night Shield instead of Shield. Shield is an arcane spell. Shield really important, so I carry these ones with me at all times, and I cast it with me as a buff right at the start of a dungeon. And then I also have some visibility potions. These are not available from a vendor, although they used to be years and years ago, before my time. But you can find them as a rare drop, and maybe you can find some cheap ones on the auction house occasionally. I keep an eye on the auction house and purchase them when I see them for about 5,000 plat each or less. And I usually go through about 5 of these a life when I do this first quest that I'm going to Invis run, which I'll be showing you shortly. Okay, final page of my inventory. Just got some spell components at the top there, and then I have some Omni Spell Dust. This is, like a universal spell component. It's there as a backup. Actually should reduce the number. I should put like most of those in the bank and maybe just carry about 100 with me, because right now at level 1 I don't have a lot of strength, which means I don't have a lot of carrying capacity, so I should probably just have about 100 of those. That's why I don't have big stacks of the spell components either. I mean, the big stacks don't weigh a lot, but when you're first level with low strength, it does make a difference. So sometimes I'll even maybe just carry 20 of these potions with me right at the start, and then once I get a little bit more strength later on, then I'll go ahead and carry the bigger stacks. This next item is the boarding pass. This came with the Sharn expansion. I don't think it came with all of... I'm not sure if it came with all of the different bundles or not. In any event, that just allows me to teleport to Sharn, and it has 4 different locations in Sharn that you can go to. Nice way to get around quickly. The key to the City Evening Star. This comes from Purple Dragon Knight favor, and it's just a way to get to Evening Star really quickly. If you didn't have that, if you're a VIP, you can log out and log into the Forgotten Realms. Or if you're not VIP and you don't have this, to get there, I believe you would have to run the Lords of Dust chain in its entirety to get out to Evening Star. But this carried over from my previous life. If I need to get out to Evening Star for some reason right away, bam. This next item is a really, really important item for any tune that you're serious about. And some of you may be rolling your eyes right now because you're thinking to yourself, I have farmed this quest 500,000 times and it just won't drop for me. That sucks, and some people have bad luck, but it will drop for you eventually. This comes from Epic Two-Toed Tobias, which is a quest that can be run in about 10 minutes or less, and it's great XP, so it should be part of your Epic dailies, and there's lots of collectibles in there and a chance to drop this fantastic item that allows you to self-raise. It's actually the only non-consumable in the game that allows you to self-raise, and it works in raids. So it's the only item in the game that allows you to self-raise in a raid. So that right there is huge. I'm in a raiding guild, so that's just gigantic. But even if you're not a raider, this is a really important item. Now, if you're not familiar with it, it actually raises you as a wraith for 1 minute, and when 1 minute expires, you die again. But in that 1 minute, that's going to give you time to save a quest. If that means, getting up and throwing a bunch of raise scrolls on your party members to get them back up and in the fight, or maybe if you're soloing, that can mean you can hit that and maybe run to a shrine, for example. Because when you die in a quest and you can't reach a shrine, that sucks. This item will, with 1 minute, will more than likely allow you to run back to a shrine. I also have some bells of opening if I need to knock a chest or a door. I'm not, I don't have unlocking skills, so that right there is pretty much going to open any chest or door that can be picked or knocked. Some Super Spirit Cakes if I want to raise, and my Gibbers was already used. This is just like an emergency. I don't use these a ton, but I like to have some with me just in case. I also have some rest of the Eladrin statuettes. You can get these from the large Eberron Dragon Shard turn in, so this just acts as a shrine. You can click on it, and it's just a single. It's a it's a consumable, and it's just for yourself only. There are other like store shrines that are similar to this that actually pop an actual shrine that works for the whole party. This one is just for self. And it's just, if I really need to fill up on mana and reset my clickies and stuff, just kind of as an emergency to save a quest, I'll use those, but I'm not in the habit of using those regularly. Most lives, I would never even use something like that, but like I said, as an emergency, it's nice to have those. Enchanted Repair All Kit when you need to repair your gear. The Harper Pin is a really nice clicky that comes from Harper Favor. This is the greater version with a lower tier favor reward. You can get the lesser version. The only difference between the two is that the greater has a 5-minute cooldown, the lesser has a 10-minute cooldown. They share cooldown, so there's no value in having both of them. Once you get the greater, you just pitch the lesser. And so this is going to get you out of certain crowd control effects like dancing or being held, for example, or even being webbed. If you really need to get out, you were dancing and you thought you were going to get overwhelmed, you hit this and it gets you out of it. So it's a no shit button, and every tune that you're even moderately serious about ought to have this item. I love it. I carry it on all my tunes. I also have a Leery Thistledown. This is a permanent Gold Seal hireling that is only available through purchase of the DDO Starter Pack, and that is a pack that comes with catacombs and some other goodies. I think there's some like XP pots and stuff, and but you get this, a little hireling, a level 3 cleric, and the biggest reason I have this is because she has the Divine Vitality ability, which is a cleric ability that you can use to give someone else spell points. Okay, and so I can pop her out and use her Divine Vitality ability on me, and I get about 200 spell points. Because she's a Gold Seal hireling, she can be used anywhere in a dungeon, not like regular hirelings, which can only be summoned at the start. She can be summoned anywhere, so basically like when I run out of spell points, I just find a safe spot, pull her out, and I can use her Divine Vitality to give me about 200 spell points, and then I just dismiss her, and she can be summoned every 5 minutes, so 5 minutes later I can pull her out again and get another 200 spell points. So that's a really nice thing to have for a caster, and especially in Reaper mode. I didn't even carry her before Reaper mode. I just didn't feel like I needed the extra spell points, but in Reaper mode, we go through a lot more resources, so I have used her just countless times since Reaper mode came out, and I just love it. It is bound to account, so you can move it around to your different tunes as you're reincarnating stuff. But I like to have this with me even at endgame, 200 spell points is 200 spell points. That's several spells. I have the Dark Swirl Caramel Bite and the Almond-Coated Shadow Apple. These come from the Night Revels event that comes out in October. And these are clickies, not consumables. These are reusables that will last the entire year. They will expire when the next Night Revels comes out, but they're super cheap to purchase, so when the next Night Revels comes out, you just buy them again. And so this provides a +5 festive bonus to PRR and MRR for 1 hour, and this provides a +5 festive bonus to melee power, range power, and +10 festive bonus to universal spell power for 1 hour. It has a 2-hour cooldown, so you can't keep it going all the time, but 1 hour out of every 2 hours is pretty cool. Those are nice, basically freebie stacking clickies, so I carry them with me on all tunes at all times. And these final 2 items are also from Night Rebels. The Hood of Unrest is a clicky that gives you 50% festive bonus to dodge for 20 seconds that ignores your dodge cap. Also a nice oh shit button. You're getting overwhelmed. You can hit that and give you a bunch of extra dodge in a clutch fight. And then the Reveler's Regalia is also a clicky that gives you a 25% festive bonus to spell critical damage that lasts for 90 seconds. So you're going into a boss fight, hit that. Gives you some extra, boost to your spell critical damage, which is pretty nice. Okay, that's it for gear. And let's take a look at some other things. There's where my stats are right now. I don't know why that person is sitting there. Enjoying the view, maybe. I'm out here in the harbor in Sharn. I came out here because I thought it'd be pretty quiet, but someone found me. Skills. So where I'm going to be spending my skill points, and this is all, in my build post, which is posted in the Druid forums, are in balance, concentration, intimidate, spellcraft, use magic device, and I put a point in tumble. You can't tumble unless you have at least one rank spent there. And then any remaining points that I have will be spent in heal. Don't care much about the rest of them, but if you did have leftover skill points after all of that stuff, then you could just dump it in spot, for example. On the feat side, my first level feat is maximize spell, which, just want to make sure you know, does need to be loaded up into your hotbar and activated. So you just drag it down here and you click on it to activate it. Those are my past life stances from these first 4 epic past life stances, and this is my iconic past life stance, which I already talked about the benefits that I get from those. So I do keep maximize on at all times, but I also want to show you, just in case you're not familiar, that when you have a spell loaded up on your hotbar, you can right click it and then you can select from all the different available meta magic feats, and you can just choose to have that always on or perhaps always off, or standard means that if you have maximize activated like I do here, then it would apply, but if you didn't, it wouldn't. But there are going to be some spells that, for example, you don't want to have maximize and power on for, because that's a lot of extra spell points. So I'll be talking about individual spells as I get to them that I'll like to have certain meta magic feats on or off for. On the spell side, just level 1 spells, Druids automatically get the Summon Nature's Ally for every level. I chose Jump and Entangle. Jump because I thought that would help me in this first quest a little bit. If I wasn't a Tiefling, though, then I might take Produce Flame, just so I had at least one offensive spell to have right away. It's not very powerful, but it's basically about all you got at level 1. Entangle's a nice little crowd control spell, and that throws some little weeds down, little vines on the floor, on the ground, and it slows down mobs and it get them tangled up in it. So it's kind of nice, really low-B crowd control. I don't use it once I get Earthquake, but some people like to use it even after they get Earthquake and just throw them both down. What else? Enhancements. And normally at this point I wouldn't have any, but ever since Racials came out, we've got racial enhancement points to spend from our racial past lives. So earlier I said I start with 12 racial action points, and that's from past lives, but I also have an additional 2 beyond that, because you can get a tome available from the DDO store that gives you an additional 2 action points to spend in your racial tree. And then there was a tome available from the Sharn pre-order, the Sharn bundles, that give you a +1 action point to spend in your universal tree. So over here in the Inquisitive tree, I just used that 1 point to get this first core, and I chose that one because it gives me +1 to Intimidate. Since I am a tank and I will be focusing on Intimidate, that's a nice freebie option for me. Something useful to get out of a first core. I won't be spending any more points into Inquisitive or any of the other universal trees. So on the Tiefling side, I did pick up Hellish Rebuke. I haven't actually played with this much because when I played through my Tiefling lives, this was broken. So I hope it's been fixed. I believe that it has. We'll see. But it says envelops you in a cloak of infernal flame. You have a chance to deal fire damage to foes that strike you in melee range. Enemies have a chance to take 1d10 fire damage +1 per character level, max 30. This damage scales with fire spell power. As a tanky caster, I'm going to be up in the front lines. I'm going to be taking hits, so that's a guard. So yeah, why not? But the truth is, I probably wouldn't pick that if it weren't for this enhancement that you can get that requires that the Hellish Rebuke, which is Ferocious Rebuke. And this says, when Hellish Rebuke is active, enemies that strike you have a chance to be tripped with no save. That's pretty cool. So, when I'm surrounded by mobs and I'm getting beat on, they could get tripped. And since I have all these free action points because of my racial past lives, hell yeah, give it to me. It's basically free, right? I also spent a couple points here to get +2 to saves versus spells. I probably will get that to the 3rd tier, but that's all the action points I had right now. I love to have Wand and Scroll Mastery during heroics if I'm Reaper questing. Reaper, your party members are getting hit harder. You have a self-healing penalty, so this is 75% extra healing from your wands and scrolls. So it also has some other benefits, but that's really the reason why I take it. And if you've been out of the game for a while, Wand and Scroll Mastery used to be in the Caster Druid tree. It is not anymore, but I'm happy to have it here in the Tiefling tree. I also picked up +6 magical resistance rating, and then the Ash, which is a Scorch SLA, Scorch like the Wizard and Sorcerer spell. And you can cast that as a spell-like ability. It's cooldown 10 seconds. It only costs 4 spell points. That gives me a nice little offensive SLA, which is available to me right away because of all the action points that I have. So I have that loaded up right here. And later on, I'll be augmenting that to make creatures vulnerable to fire that wouldn't normally be, but I'll talk more about that once I get there. Okay, that's the enhancements. I think we've gone over everything. And now we're going to do our one quest to get right to level 2 in minutes. Okay, here I am at Stealthy Repossession in the Stormreach Harbor. And this is the quest that I like to do to get me right to level 2 in literally minutes without fighting a single mob. As the name would suggest, if you're not familiar with it, it is meant to be stealth. So whether you're a sneaky rogue or you have some invisibility potions like I do, you don't really want to get caught in a big fight in here. In fact, you don't really want to fight mobs at all. There are certain mobs that will cause quest failure if you kill too many of them. So you're just trying to race to the end, and that's just what this quest is, and it gives a good amount of XP for being a low-B quest. And I'm going to be benefiting from striding and things, but even if you don't have any of that, I actually do have a video that shows that you can run this even without striding. If you didn't have striding, I would recommend haste spots, but I don't even use that or any ship buffs or anything in that video. So it can take a few tries to get the hang of it, but once you get the hang of it, you'll find that this is a very quick and easy way to get to level 2 right away if you want to skip Korthos. We will be doing this on Reaper 1 Skull. Even though we won't have the 10 kills that are required to activate Reaper XP, we still want to do it on Reaper 1 because just doing it on Reaper 1 Skull will give a big plus 120% bonus to regular XP, and really that's all we care about for purposes of this quest. So I'm going to go ahead and get fully buffed up. And for the R1 run, I'm actually going to have to run this twice on the multi-lifer, but if you were a first lifer, I think even a second lifer, you can get to level 2 with just a single run. I will have to run it twice, so I'll be running it on Elite after this. But on my R1 run, I'm actually going to invis right here at the start. Oops, wrong button. I've found that this extra, I won't actually invis until after the second lever is pulled on my elite runs, but I've found that it's helpful to keep the dungeon alert down to invis right away on the R1 run. So I hit that, I re-invis right away, and then I'm going to hit my rallying cry, which is my past life clicky from Purple Dragon Knight past lives. That'll make me run a little bit faster. Open this door, quickly run over here to the lever, and then I'm going to re-invis. And again, I hit the wrong button. Grab my collectible and run the hell out. You can get 4 collectibles in this run too, so collectibles are very valuable because of the new Caneth crafting system that came out a couple years ago. There's collectibles 2 and 3. Come over here, hit these levers, up the ladder, hit this lever, then I'm going to re-invis. I'm going to wait for my PDK clicky to come off timer, just a few seconds, and then I'm going to hit that and race to the end. And there, I hit the rallying cry, come over here, run down the ramp. I haven't even spiked a dungeon alert yet, that's good. I'm going to whack this guy in the face. Oops. Probably be better if I hit my weapon for that, but I want him to go ring that bell. That'll open the gate. And I pick up that thing, and I win. So now I'm just, you know, half a rank from level. I'm going to come over here, and then I'm going to try to recall out. You can teleport out with your Sharn thing if you want. This guy, or you can come up here on these crates, and hopefully you can recall out safely. If not, you can go back up to one of the ledges, like where the, you know, the last lever was, and you can get out. So that's how you can get to level 2 in minutes. Like I said, I'm going to have to just do that again on Elite, and that'll clearly get me to level 2. And then I can start getting more seriously geared up, and I'll go over that in my next episode. Thanks for watching. As always, if you have any questions about my videos, you can respond on YouTube, and you can catch me live streaming nearly every day on my Twitch channel, Gingerspyce.